Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natan b'tukenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen.
Shabbat Shalom. So this week's Torah portion, our parashah, is the fourth portion out of the book of Devarim. And this week our Torah portion is Re'ah, which means see, which is to do in part with the opening of this Torah portion as Moshe opens his speech to the children of Israel with words given to him by our true Creator Yahweh. See, now, in this Torah portion, Yahweh wants us to seek and to understand why Israel's first temple was destroyed and they were led into exile of the wrongdoings of the past that Israel committed. The whole clad Israel, the whole essence and land and everything of Israel, so that we would not continue them ever again in these sinful ways. So as we now come into this new parashah, we start with a blessing and a curse set forth by Yahweh, in which one, we will be blessed if we continue to obey Adonai's commandments, and two, a curse if we turn aside from Yahweh and continue and choose not to obey his commandments set forth for us all to keep and to observe. Now, note that once the children of Israel enter into the promised land, to take possession of it, we hear of Joshua's first act of conquering it, and that is to set a blessing upon Mount Gerizim, which is south of Shechem, and to also place a countering curse on Mount Ebal, which is also noted in Joshua chapter 8, verses 30. Now, beneath the two places was Shechem, the place where the kingdoms would split apart from two portions of it, being the northern and the southern, where the southern kingdom chose Rehoboam as king, and the northern chose Jeroboam as its king. Now, this division was the curse at Mount Gerizim, which is a land that is fruitful and blessed, and Mount Ebal, which lacks sunlight as it is overshadowed and cursed. Now, both mountains are in the center of Canaan. Now, as Yahweh is here once again warning us to keep and be careful to keep and do all of his statutes and the rules that he taught the children of Israel throughout their 40-year voyage and sabbatical in the wilderness. Now, both mountains are in the wilderness, as we know. Now, just as a parent would check over and over again with their children to make sure that they are prepared and have everything that they would need before they take off on the road for college into the world, this just goes to show that Yahweh was doing the same thing for us, to show how much that Yahweh loves us, to protect and to keep us. Now, Yahweh is instilling for the children of Israel to always remember him in his statutes and to remind them that once they do enter into their new promised land, that they are to gain and go in and dispose of all of the previous owners of the land and the gods of those people and their places of worship, and that they are to look over and under every nook and cranny, and on the high mountains and on the hills, and to top it off under every tree, and to rid of all of the former land's tenants' belongings of carved images and everything to do with their worship and those in which their worship had went to. Now, I'm talking about the fallen angels who deceived the masses to be known as gods, when we know that there is only one true God and Creator, Yahweh. Now, the children of Israel must dash their pillars into places, into big pieces, small pieces, any kind of pieces, and to burn their Asherim with fire, and to destroy all of their images and carved ones, and to destroy their name out of the land that they are about to possess. Now, you see, Yahweh does not want us to learn of any of their ways, especially the ways that they serve their gods. In fact, Yahweh commands us not to worship him in any way that they worship their gods, but unfortunately, we see that many people do continue to serve him that same way as they did, with such practices and observances as celebrating holidays rather than holy days such as Christmas and Easter. So Yahweh then informs the children of Israel that he will inform them on where to worship him and to offer up their offerings and sacrifices, and that this will be as well where they will eat before Yahweh and enjoy all that he blessed them with. Likewise, he also informs them that they will be so full of blessings if they continue to follow his rules, that they can also eat meat within any of their towns because the abundance of gain that he is going to give them. But they are not allowed to eat the animal's blood. They must pour it out on the earth like water. And remember now that blood keeps us alive as well. It is also the lifeline and vitality for us. As the blood is the life, we are not to consume the life of anyone or anything or being. Just as in Genesis, Bereshit, when Abel's blood cried out to Yahweh, the blood is the life. Remember this. Now likewise, we are also commanded not to consume any of the first offerings that are and belong to Yahweh within our towns, but we are to eat them before Yahweh in the place that Adonai, our Yahweh, will choose for us. Now, Yahweh informs the children of Israel to never inquire of how the pagans worship their God, in effect to worship Yahweh that same way. And why is this? Because every abominable thing that Yahweh hates, all of those detestable things they had done before and for their gods. And Yahweh says we are a Kadesh, holy people to him. We are to be set apart. Now, with that all being said, did you know that Yahweh sends false prophets our way to test us? Oh, yes. Well, Yahweh tells us that if a false prophet tells us he or she has had a dream or vision, and chances are that sometimes these visions may come to pass, but if they tell us to go after other gods, anyone or anything that is not Yahweh, then Yahweh wants us to see if the Shema is truly in our hearts, if we believe that Yahweh is the one and only God, and to know if Yahweh is loved by us with all of our hearts and souls. You see, it is one thing to say you love Yahweh, and it is a whole nother thing to show Yahweh how firm in him that your love and trust in him truly, and I mean truly is. You see, we shall serve Yahweh only and hold fast to him and him only, as in the Shema. But don't think that false prophets are workers of the Lord, as they are only tools, and they shall be put to death, will have an effect on us if we do not let it, because they will have their rebellion against them from Yahweh. Whether it was a family member or a friend or a children of Israel who tried to turn us away from Yahweh. In fact, the children of Israel were informed back then to stone to death and kill any false prophet because they sought, and I say they sought to take them away from Adonai, our Yahweh. And next on, we see that Yahweh then gives the children of Israel rules of not harming themselves for the sake of mourning the dead, and to not cut their hair bald for the dead. And also about not eating abominable or unclean things or foods, as we are a set-apart Kodesh people to Adonai. Now, this is where Yahweh gives us a complete list of those things that are unclean and that we shall not eat of, nor touch, nor could they eat animals that die without being properly slaughtered. Now, about these clean and unclean foods, it says, you are the sons of Adonai your Yahweh. You shall not cut yourselves or make any baldness on your foreheads for the dead, for you are a people Kodesh to Adonai your Yahweh. And Adonai has chosen you to be a people for his treasured possession out of all the peoples who are in the face of the earth. This is why we are set apart for him, and we shall not do these defiled things, and we shall remain clean to him. Now you shall not eat any abomination. These are the animals that you may eat. It is the ox, the sheep, the goat, the deer, the gazelle, and the roebuck, and the wild goat and the ibex, the antelope and the mountain sheep, every animal that parts the hoof and has the hoof cloven in two and chews the cud. Among the animals you may eat. Yet of those that chew the cud or have the hoof cloven, you shall not eat these, which is the camel, the hare, and the rock badger, because they chew the cud, but do not part the hoof, are unclean for you. And the pig, because it parts the hoof, but does not chew the cud, it is unclean for you. Their flesh you shall eat, and their carcass you shall not touch. Now remember, when Yeshua had legion there, the demons, he allowed them to go into the herd of the swine, the pigs, because they were unclean, as were these demons, the fallen, the Nephilim descendants, the Nephilim themselves, whose spirits, as we read in the book of Enoch, were those of the demons, because they were unclean beings, and they had to remain on the earth because they were of the earth. Now, all that are in the waters you may eat these. Whatever has fins and scales you may eat. And whatever does not have fins and scales you shall not eat, because it is unclean for you. Now, you may eat all clean birds, but these are the ones that you shall not eat, which is the eagle, the bearded vulture, the black vulture, the kite, the falcon of any kind, and every raven of any kind, and the ostrich, including the nighthawk, the seagull, and the hawk of any kind, and the little owl, and the short-eared owl, and the barn owl, and also the tawny owl, the carrion vulture, and the cormorant, the stork, the heron of any kind, and the hoopoe, and the bat, and all winged insects are unclean for you, and they shall not be eaten. All clean winged things you may eat, though. And you shall not eat anything that has died naturally. You may give it to the sojourner who is within your towns, that he may eat it. Or you may sell it to a foreigner, for you are a people, Kodesh to Adonai your Yahweh, and you shall not boil a young goat in its mother's milk. But now, in our modern times, there is much more to the unclean food, such as with foods that incorporate pig fat, and unclean animals, byproducts such as certain gelatins and chocolate bars, and such including pill capsules and more, such as products like bread and others, which use monodiglycerides and triglycerides, and gummy bears and others, which if they carry stearic acid and enzymes, unless noted as vegetable stearic acid, it all chances are contain unclean animal into it. Now we have comprised and put together a full list in our free ebook, which you can download, or the PDF download, for the True Christians Guideline on our website, followYeshuaNow.com. I highly suggest you download this and read this. It is a true lifesaver. Now, in this part of the portion, we are giving word of a sabbatical year, where every 7 years you were granted a release from all debts, where there would be no poor among the children of Israel, because Yahweh would bless the land, giving them an inheritance to possess, if and only if they would obey Yahweh's voice, as known as the Shemitah, 7 years. Now we are also to watch out for our fellow brethren, and to lend to them what is sufficient for their needs, whatever it may be. And nor are we to hold a grudge against those in need and become hard-hearted towards them. We are required to open our hand to those in need. Also, when after the 6 years of service, releasing a servant We are not to let them go empty-handed. As the Adonai blessed you, you are to likewise baruch them. And we are to always remember that we too were once slaves in Egypt, Mitzrayim. Also, that the firstborn males of the herd and flock shall be dedicated to Adonai, and we shall do no work with it. But it is lame, blind, or blemished, it shall not be sacrificed to Yahweh. Now they were also informed to keep Pesach, or Passover, in the month of Abib, and how to offer the Passover sacrifice to Yahweh, and to not eat of leavened bread for 7 days, and to offer the sacrifice where and only where Yahweh tells and directs them to, and that on the 7th day that they are to do no work on it. Next, they were informed about the Feast of Booths, that is to be observed for 7 weeks, following Pesach, in the Feast of Unleavened Bread, in the waving of the Omer. Now after that, they are informed of Sukkot, or the Feast of Booths, that they are to do as today and keep it and observe it for 7 days, known as the Feast of Tabernacle, which is a foreshadow of us tabernacling with Yeshua, our Messiah, and our Abba Yahweh, where we are to be joyous together as one. Now, these 3 feasts are commanded times for all the males to appear before Yahweh, giving as they are able, never at that time coming empty-handed. Now, moving on, as we see in our half-Torah portion, we can see a clear understanding here that Yahweh is informing us men that Shamayim, heaven, is his throne and earth is his footstool. Now, Yahweh is informing us to look deep into ourselves to find the answer of what is it that us man could build for Yahweh as a home, when it was in fact him that made all the heavens and the earth, but that we could offer him our hearts to live in as a home, and that this is the one that he would look to. He who is humble and contrite in spirit, nefesh, and trembles at Yahweh's word. And all those that do not do this will be dealt with for abiding inside of their abominations of what is and what evil is in Yahweh's eyes. Now we are also to rejoice with Israel and to be glad for her, and we will then be comforted by Jerusalem. Now also in here we see that the prophecy or Nabuah here speaks of those who eat of pig's flesh in the abomination, and mice, unclean things such as bacon, unless turkey or otherwise, and stated as coming to an end together, declares Adonai. Now, as he will renew the minds of men to not be hard-hearted and to love and worship the one true Yahweh, from new moon to new moon, from Shabbat to Shabbat, for the new heavens and the new earth that Yahweh makes. These are surely soothing and something to be amazed by us and to look forward to. Now, in our gospel portion, we see that it starts out with Yeshua telling his Talmudim a Nabuah, or a prophecy of what is shortly about to take place to them, about how the time is coming, but at a time that whenever somebody kills you, he will think that he is offering service to Yahweh, and this is all because they will not truly have or really even know the Abba, or the Messiah Yeshua. Now Yeshua informs that he is soon leaving to the Abba, but in his place he will send the Ruach HaKodesh, in whom helps to guide us on the right and Kodesh path, and also convicts the world concerning sin. We also hear of this as a conscious or a guilty conscience, as with us all here today, just as Yeshua told the disciples that there was much that he had to say to them, and of these many things they could not bear them at that time. It's the same for us here and now today. We could not fathom all the things at a certain time, so Yahweh guides us and reveals these things to us at the time and season that it is right for us to understand and to comprehend these things. Such as what follows with Yeshua's prophecy about the time of Jacob's trouble and the labor pains during the time of the tribulation that we are as well currently in today. Now as well, when he says that you will be saddened as I am gone, but your sorrow will turn into joy, just as a woman in pain during labor or pregnancy. But then after giving birth, she is then joyous as it will be upon Yeshua's return. Think about this beautiful blessing. And now as you think about that this week, we would like to close and give on the Aaronic blessing to you. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you shalom. This has been a weekly Messianic Torah portion from Following Yeshua Ministries. For more information or for help, please visit www.followyeshuanow.com. Shabbat Shalom.